But just a little bit about journaling. I'm not sure exactly what everyone's experience is with it. Some of you might have never journaled before. Some of you might be like me where you just part-time journal. But just a couple of things that I wanted to point out about journaling in general. The biggest thing is that one of the things that I love about journals is they serve as a safe space for us, for self-reflection, a place to explore life's questions and experiences. And one of the things that I feel like I do is that I don't necessarily know what I think and what I feel about something until I write it down. So the journal serves as a space for that. And I love this quote from Susan Sontag that in the journal, I do not just express myself more openly than I could to any person, but I create myself. And I think that that is what really, really happens in journaling and the time that we spend with blank pages before us, right? It doesn't actually even matter what kind of a journal you're keeping, it's getting in touch with what's going on inside you. When I assign this to students and when I've actually talked to other people about journaling, one of the things that keeps coming up with people is this question of, I don't know why anyone would want to read my journal, or I don't know why my story really matters, right? And I don't have any really quick answers for you about that other than every story matters. All of our stories matter. And having them in some kind of a journal, particularly in a situation like this where we're in some kind of a historical movement that's happening, our stories are going to be really, really important for people who find these later on and go through our journals in this time period. I would be willing to bet that Anne Frank didn't necessarily think anybody would be that interested in reading her diary either, right? But yet we're so enthralled with what she had to say. Part of it is because it's about her personal experience and what she personally felt and experienced during her time. And then part of it is because of the time period, the historical matter of it, right? So, I mean, who knows what's going to come out of this COVID-19? I don't know. I'm not saying that this is the same as the Holocaust, but I am saying that it is something that's historical, and we don't necessarily know what will come from that. So one of the things I was looking at when I was kind of pulling this together is also we have lots of mental health benefits for journaling. And when I was putting this together, I was like, wow, like who doesn't want these things, right? Like stress reduction, better relationship with yourself, help clarify feelings, increases problem solving, improves mental health. All of these are great, great things, improves memory, aids in anxiety and depression. So there's lots of reasons why we should be journaling, more so than just for creativity. There's other benefits to this that come along as well too, right? Real quickly, before we actually start to journal, I wanted to go through with you just some of the basic, most popular different types of journals that are out there. And what I know that a lot of artists just sort of mix these up. So I do know some people who are like diehard, I only do the free write journal. But most of the people that I know who keep a journal, they sort of mix it up and use a little bit of all of these. So I just thought we would go through this really, just a couple real quick. The first one, free writing, or the automatic writing. This is one that a lot of people have heard and used in different types of writing classes and things like that. And basically, it's exactly what it sounds like. Stream of consciousness writing, where there are no rules about content, about grammar, spelling, any of that. Whatever comes to your mind goes directly onto the page, right? And we're going to work a little bit with this in a minute so that you can kind of get an idea about that. Dream journaling is another really popular type of journaling where every morning upon waking, the person writes down what they dreamed about, or if they wake up in the middle of the night after having a dream, they write down everything that they've dreamt. And the whole idea is to explore the subconscious mind, and with the hope that there's answers in those dreams to our waking problems, right? The gratitude journal, I've heard a lot about this, and especially in the past couple of years, the gratitude journal has taken on a life of its own. Goal journaling is kind of fits in with that as well too. And this type of journaling can be found, like it's used for setting daily, weekly, monthly, or yearly goals, keeping track of them. I know a lot of writers keep a gratitude journal, listing their blessings for the day or their blessings for the month and how those have helped you in some way. So this is a very popular one. My personal favorite is the doodle journal. I love doodle journals. So whenever writing isn't enough, or when writing doesn't come, drawings, sketches, doodles can really help get your ideas out onto the page. Adding color and any kind of like an element of expression and understanding to your writing. I definitely spend a lot of time doodle journaling. Prompt journaling is another one that has become super popular in the last year or two. And these are ones we now see, like you can actually get books for journal prompts. So this is especially helpful if you are not used to journaling and you're not sure exactly about how to get started. A prompt will give you a question or a topic to write about, and then you don't have to come up with your topic, right? So this is a very popular way of doing this, and there are lots of different ones out there. And as Elizabeth just said, there's a prompt that they give every day with theirs. And I'm also going to start, oh, sorry, let me see if I can go back. I don't know if I can actually. Someone is saying something to me. Let me see. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yes. So that you can go back. I can't go back. I'm sorry. So I'll just go through the other ones really quickly. The travel journal is one that lots of people have heard of and used before, right? And keeping track of a journey that you're on and keeping a list of everything that you did while you were on that journey, that kind of a thing. I'm not sure if any of you have any experience with bullet journaling. I would love to hear from you if you do, or if you could like put a picture of your bullet journal in the chat bar. That would be so cool. I'm very curious about bullet journaling. And it looks beautiful on paper. I love to look at the images of it, but it also looks really complicated to me. So I haven't actually tried that one. The last one that was on our little box of different ones is the Commonplace. And the Commonplace book is something that started like 19th century is pretty much when it was mostly being used. It's not a term that we so much use anymore. We're more familiar with journal, but it started as something that was for students and meant to keep a certain length of time period. So they might have kept a Commonplace book for one semester. And in that Commonplace book, everything that they were studying, everything that they were reading, the lectures that they went to, they would take notes in it. Snippets from readings that were really important to them went into it. Thoughts and ideas and questions that they had during that time period would go into it. Music that they were listening to would fall into it as well too. So it served almost like a capsule of that time period in their life. And there's some really neat pictures online of Commonplace books too, if you're interested in looking at those. It's pretty much just a deposit of everything that's happening in your life during a specific time period. So I told you we were going to go back to the free writing, right? And one of the most famous types of free writing is called the morning pages. And it is from the book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And this book has been around for a while, but it is one that a lot of artists keep going back to, because it's all about uncovering your creativity. And so Julia Cameron swears by the morning pages exercises. And I know a lot of artists who do this as well too, that they swear that they can't get their day going until they've done their morning pages. And what the morning pages are 3 handwritten pages every single morning before you do anything else. So before you get out of bed, before you get your coffee, before you do anything, you reach for your notebook and you just write 3 full pages. There's no rules, there's no guidelines. You just keep going until you hit the 3 pages. And so I have a little clip of Julia speaking about it that I thought was really interesting that I'll play for you here.
I'd like to explain the 2 basic tools of the Artist's Way. The first tool is a tool called Morning Pages. And as it suggests, they're done in the morning and they're pages. They are 3 pages of longhand morning writing. done when you're thinking about anything at all, like I forgot to buy kitty litter, I didn't call my sister back, I need to wash the curtains, it's time to change the bed. They seem to have nothing to do with creativity, but what they do is clear your mind. It's as though you have taken a little dustbuster and you go poking it into all the corners of your consciousness, and you come up with what you put on the page. I often think they should be called morning pages, MOURNING, because they are really a farewell to life as you knew it and an introduction to life as it's going to be. A lot of times people think they should be artful, and I say no, they should be whining, petty, grumpy, whatever you happen to be. I wake up grumpy. Every morning my morning pages start out, well, hello, good morning, I'm tired. But yours may start out differently. But what you do is you write down just what is crossing your consciousness. It's as though you're writing down in meditation terms what we call cloud thoughts that just sort of move through your consciousness, and you're becoming acquainted with all the dark corners of your psyche. So sometimes people who have done a lot of New Age work say, oh, Julia, I don't want to do morning pages, they're too negative. And I say, no, think of it in Jungian terms, that you are meeting your shadow and taking it out for a cup of coffee. And what I find is that when you put the negativity on the page, it isn't eddying through your consciousness during the day. So morning pages are a clearing exercise, and they are an exercise that makes you have much more consciousness as you pass through your day.
I love how she talks about them as cloud thoughts, and the clouds going across your mind and thinking in that way. It's really odd to do this with you all because I can't hear you or see you. And usually when I do a writing workshop, I really like to have a lot of your feedback and things. And so I feel like I'm sort of talking into my laptop. It's just a little odd. So if you have any questions or you have any comments, please feel free to put them in the comment bar. We're going to actually try writing right now. What Julia Cameron was talking about with this, it's not morning, I know that, but we can still kind of use this practice of free writing right now. So instead of doing 3 full pages, because I think that that's a lot, I'm just going to set my timer for 10 minutes. And the goal for you is just to write for 10 full minutes to whatever comes into your head, just like what she was talking about, these cloud thoughts. Whatever pops into your mind, write it down. Just keep your pen moving the entire time. And what I thought I would give you is, if you need a prompt to work with, which I always think it is easier when you have a prompt, is to think about this one. When I first heard about the coronavirus, tell me that story. Tell me exactly what you remember about the very first time you heard about it. Was it a joke? Did you hear it on like one of the late night TV shows? What was the story behind it? What did you think about it? All of those kinds of things. So I'll go ahead and set my timer here for 10 minutes. And I'll let you know, I'll give you a minute here to gather if you need to get some paper together, that kind of thing. And I'll set a timer for 10 minutes. So everybody ready? Go. Excellent. That was 10 minutes. Good work. I don't know how that felt for some of you. I'll give you another like minute or so to kind of finish up exactly what it is you're working on right now. We're writing, and then we'll kind of come back.
And Meredith, this is Elizabeth. You did see the the questions about bullet journaling.
Yeah.
Just questions about if you could explain that a little bit more.
Yeah, so bullet journaling, I'm not exactly sure I completely understand it. I was looking to see, there's a couple of people who said that they had experience with it. Cynthia was one that I was looking at who said it was really relaxing. Bullet journaling is, I mean, they use bullet points for everything. So for listing and the events that they're doing during the day, their activities, their thoughts, everything is listed by bullet points. And it's really artful the way it's designed. There's whole books about how to do bullet journaling, and people have blogs about it and things like that. I can't talk to you as someone who's had experience doing it because it looks a little too complicated for me. So I've never actually tried it. But I'm curious to see if any of you, like Cynthia, I think was something, if you want to say something in the chat column, Cynthia, about your experiences with it, that would be great. Or anybody else who has experience with it. I'm betting the library has something on bullet journaling in its stock for sure. Let me, sorry, I'm going, if I was more technically savvy with all of this, I would have played you some really beautiful music while you were writing. So I'm really sorry that I'm not able to do that. But someone just asked a question, is bullet journaling like outlining? Yeah, a lot. It is definitely like outlining your day, outlining the things that you are doing with your day. So I've even seen it like include lists for grocery, lists for activities that you're doing you want to finish up in the day. And even like just the journaling thought, like what you just did was more like you were writing out prose, whereas the bullet journaling would just be highlighting the key points and like bullet pointing them. Oh, here's someone, Molly just put bulletjournal.com can provide some more information, which is great with it as well too. It is really, if you Google bullet journaling and look at the images, some of the images that it creates are just really beautiful. And things like that. Does anyone want to share? I know that it's hard to do because of the situation we're in, but does anybody want to share in the chat box just a little bit about what they were writing about the first time that they heard about the coronavirus? I can tell you what I was writing about was the very first time I heard about it was in January. I mean, I'd heard about it before this point, but when people were like, this is when they were talking about travel. And it was at the very end of January. I had to go to a conference in Florida. And I was really anxious. And I remember making this really big joke with all of my classes, like, hey guys, I might, like, hopefully I just bring myself back and I don't bring back the coronavirus. And that's what I remember, was having this like joking moment about it the first time I kind of really heard about it. Some of you are writing, I wrote about how I thought it was a little more than a mild cold and I didn't see it ruining the rest of my sophomore year. Yeah, definitely, I hear that. I thought it was just another virus and one could stay safer if wearing a mask and wiping surfaces with antibacterial. Oh, Rita writes, my sister and I were in Honolulu on our second day when we heard about the first US death. Wow, okay. Many people around me thought the quarantine in China was a media hype for China in the presidential election. I remember that too. Carrie was worried about how it would affect her daughter. Karen, I wrote about how far away it felt and tracked the progression of how it got closer and closer until it turned everything upside down. Yeah, that's a good description too. Helena, in January, I heard something about a pandemic in Asia and put in an order for hand sanitizer. Yeah. I like that. My husband made fun of me at the time, thought I was overreacting. That's great. Yeah, I thought it was like Zika and that it would get under control. Yeah, it's interesting to think back to, I was thinking about like all the jokes we heard on the late night TV shows, and um, people were definitely making jokes about wearing masks and things like that until it became really, really serious. Felt fortunate my husband took it more seriously than I did. Yeah. Yeah. Worried about those living in group environments or having no home. Yeah, the stay-at-home orders. Yes, from Jeff. Yeah, these are great. It's been a while since I thought about it because it seems like we're constantly thinking about the coronavirus now. But we were hearing about it and we were hearing snippets about it, but we weren't, most of us, I should say, we're not taking it as seriously as we probably should have until much later. So I think it's really cool to be able to list sort of what we were doing or what we were thinking about it at the time when we first heard. Let me There's a couple of things that some of you are asking more about the bullet journals. And one of the things that I do think that bullet journaling does really, really well is it mixes a lot of color and artwork with the journaling writing, right? And so one of the things I wanted to kind of show you and go through with you, we're going to do one more writing activity too. But I wanted to show you really quick how there's a lot of artists and writers are using both artwork and writing in their journals, and how it's aiding in their writing and how it's helping them, like with these quarantine journals that we're going to be talking about here in a minute. But one of my favorite, one of my very favorite writers is Elizabeth Gilbert. And if you've read Eat, Pray, Love, she wrote that memoir. Most recently, she just had a new book that has just come out in the last couple of months called City of Girls. And I love that she swears by her journals, and she is one that does her morning journaling every day. And she credits the practice with keeping her calm and steady and able to hear the voice of creativity that allows it to come up. And so this is a picture from her Instagram page. She regularly shares stuff about her journals there. And I just thought this was a really cool picture that shows kind of how she's using color, how she's doodling, doing these drawings, but there's writing mixed in with it as well too. She says that she likes to mix the two, but that also she doesn't beat herself up. So if she goes to her journal to write and nothing comes out, and instead, like for instance, she draws a picture of flowers, then that's what she says the creative spirit is calling her for that day, and that's what she draws, right? So some days it's just writing, some days it's both, some days it's just writing quotes, things like that. But she references in the book Eat, Pray, Love, she references her journal quite regularly and really stands by it a lot. I also pulled this image for you too this is one of her travel journals. And I thought this was really interesting the way that she sort of put this together. This was like on the eve of, she's in the middle of travel here. And I thought it was really interesting the way that she put these colors in here. She boxed them for us and telling us about this trip in India where she's sitting in a hotel and she's thinking about the smog, right? But I'm so happy it's been 16 years, can't sleep for excitement and jet lag. So I really love kind of like how she put this all together. She says that when she's doing these trips, she never really has time to completely think about her daily activities while she's there. So she's mostly using it as a log to keep a track of everything. And then when she gets home later, she goes back to make sense of these. I also really love that she has a no judgment clause in terms of her creativity and her writing. So there's absolutely no judgment about how bad the pictures might be or the drawings or things like that. So I love that about what she has to say as well too, particularly like with this. We also have, I'm not sure if any of you are familiar, but we have a local artist named Shelley Massey who lives in Springboro. And she is, I would call, a pro at keeping an art journal. And so one of the things that I love about what she does is that she mixes lots of different mediums. So this is a picture that I took from her Instagram that she was sending me with some information about. So this is like fabrics that she pulls from. You can see like ribbon. These are all old folders that she got recycled from a school that when they no longer needed these folders. So she took them to build a journal for herself. She's got things like buttons and all different kinds of stuff that she puts in. She also paints in her journal. So she has watercolors, all that kind of stuff as well too. And one of the things that she said is that art journaling is the thing that's keeping her sane. So during this time, I'm at home with my daughter full time. I needed art journaling more than ever to keep myself calm and to feel like I have some space for myself. Here's another picture from Shelley Massey's work as well too. And this was from a travel journal that she put together. And in this one, it works a little bit more like a collage where she's layering things on top of each other. But you can see that she's using objects a little bit more in her work. So she's got like a postcard here. She's got a ticket from an event that she went to, train tickets. But then in the background, she's got coloring from stamps that she's put in, lettering that she's got. And then there's this awesome thing called washi tape. I don't even know if I'm saying it right. But I have learned what washi tape is, and now I think I'm a little obsessed with it. I don't know if any of the rest of you have any experience with washi tape, but it is basically, it's tape that is in all different kinds of like designs and colors and even widths. So some of them are really, really skinny, some of them are very fat. And this is an example of one right here, this blue and white one that's right here on the herb form. But I just recently ordered a batch of washi tape from Amazon, and I think I got like 20 different rolls that are all different colors, all different designs, all different shapes. And basically what you can use them for is to section off pages or section off parts of your journal and design with them. They're really fun. So, but basically anything goes. And also Krista just said it's like a piece of sticky ribbon. That's a great way to say it. Yeah, absolutely. And these journals, Mary Monin just said, these journals look a lot like scrapbooks. They do. Yeah. So she's actually, if you want to follow Shelley Massey, she has some beautiful work that she does in her journals. They are just amazing to look at. So this brings us to our next writing assignment. So my classes, originally their assignment was to do what I call the daily 3x3. And what I've done for this is I've sort of amended it for the quarantine. But the original assignment that everyone had and that what I was working with was to, in a 24-hour period, to complete this once every 24 hours, basically. It generally works best before bed for me, but the whole idea was to bring purpose and awareness and attention to your daily life. So the first 3 in the original assignment was to write down 3 things that you're grateful for in the last 24 hours. It could be a gift, a compliment, a sound you heard, time spent with friends, whatever it is that you're grateful for. And then the second 3 is to write down 3 observations from your last 24 hours. These should be things that are unusual, things that struck you odd in some way or struck you as beautiful, maybe something that stuck out to you that's different than normal, right? And normal in your day. And the whole idea is to use as many senses as you possibly can to describe these observations. And one of the reasons why I really love this assignment and why I use it in my own life is because mostly what I write is fiction. And while I am definitely writing fiction, things I'm making up, I'm also pulling from my own life. And so these observations that I make every day, they're a great place for me to dig into to find things to write about in my own stories, right? And so I really love this. I also think that sometimes we miss these really interesting things that happen because we're not necessarily paying attention, right? Then there's stories behind those interesting things that happen, right? They're great places to build stories. So a lot of times in class, what we would do is I would have everybody like share one of their oddest observations that they'd made in the last week or something like that. And there's some really, really great things that come out of that. But the way that I amended it for quarantine, and if you are keeping a quarantine journal, you're interested in doing that, this would be a great daily activity for you, is to write down 3 things that you did today that were different because of the quarantine. So it might be things that you normally always do, but they were changed in some way because of the quarantine that we're under, right? And then the second 3 is also to write down 3 observations you made today in our new life with COVID-19. So these observations could be about neighbors, they could be about family members, news reports, etc. But the key again is to be as detailed as possible about these observations in your journal. So I am going to, do we have another, Kristen? You said that you've already started a scrapbook again, and it's been therapeutic to journal in my scrapbooks during this time. Yeah. So these are all very therapeutic. I'm going to have you write in your journal, or write, you can do, if you want to try to do both of these, we have about, I can give, like, we can work for about maybe 10 more minutes for writing. And you can see if you can get through. I don't know if you just want to do the first 3, or maybe you want to work on the second 3. You could also start the first, and then if you get into the second, you could go with that. But this would be a great way to sort of work with that. So let me go ahead and start my timer for you again. I was thinking, like, when I was actually like putting this together the other day, I was thinking about how many things we do daily that are different just because of the quarantine, just because we're at home doing them, or maybe it's because of the way it's changed our style of how much we're driving. So you can think about what you've done today that might be different. All right, are you ready? Go. Okay, go ahead and wrap up what you're working on. And again, I'm so curious to see what are some of the things that you were writing about. If you want to put those in the chat bar, that would be great.
And Meredith, I think I can unmute people. So if there's anybody out there that would like to share out loud, just put a note in the chat and I will try to unmute you so you can share. Does that work?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay.
Anybody want to share? Krista, my dad came over in person. Krista, do you want to read yours?
Not really. Okay, if anybody would like to share, just put a little note in the chat and I can unmute you.
Okay. Someone wrote, I'm personally loving this time and opportunity. I'm thinking that is about being alone. Laura Voracek, I'll share. Excellent, Laura. And Brian, oh, I've just allowed raising my hand. Okay, I'm not sure how that works.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, Meredith.
Hi,
So one thing I wrote down that I would not have done before the quarantine is participate in a workshop like this.
Yes.
And this is lovely, and I'm enjoying it so much. But on a normal Saturday, I would be like, I gotta get to the grocery store and run all my errands and do all my laundry, and I just wouldn't have made the time for something like this. So, yeah, that's kind of a nice thing that's come of the quarantine, is making time for things like this.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I've noticed that with myself too, that I'm going into a lot, I'm watching a lot more music online that I wouldn't normally have ever done. And going into different chat rooms and things like that I normally wouldn't do. So it is kind of bringing us together in ways that's different, for sure. Anybody else want to share?
And I do want to remind people, when you're typing in the chat, you can see the to sign in. It should say to all panelists and attendees. That way everybody can see your note.
Shauna was writing about the ham radio. That's interesting. Daily chai or hand sanitizer. Fantastic. This is great. So what you could use this for is for actually like for journaling about making a quarantine journal for sure. Here's when I actually missing my dorm and how loud it could be. Yeah, I can imagine that. I made granola this morning since I didn't want to go to Trader Joe's. Yep. Birthday car parades. Oh, those are fantastic. Yes. Okay. So these are great. So one of the things that I think that, I mean, I keep coming back to this question of, does our experience really matter? And I do think that we have to consider that it does. We have to think about it as mattering, and that there is something to be gained from what the things that we're writing down and all of those things that questions that we have. Does anyone care? All of those. But we definitely have something here, right? We're going through a historical moment together, and it is changing the way we live. And so all of these changes and documenting them are going to be really important eventually. I trust that anyway. Went to the doctor's office wearing a fabric mask. Yeah. Fogging up your glasses. Yes. The difficulty breathing. Yeah. These are great. These are great. So one of the things that I thought when I was kind of putting this together for you, is if you're looking for some ideas for how you can actually make a quarantine journal, you could do this daily if you wanted to. And you don't even have to actually do it daily. You could do it like every other day or something like that. You could amend it maybe to something that works for you. Maybe you don't need to do 3 by 3. Maybe you could do 2 by 2 or something like that. But this is meant for you to just kind of keep a record of what's happening with you. We have 2 more comments. Let's see. I'm very suspicious of other people when I go to the grocery, especially those not wearing a mask. That's wonderful. Yep. Wonder how many of these changes will keep. That's what I'm wondering too, Mary. When you wrote that, that is definitely what I'm wondering too, if they're just temporary or if these are things that are going to continue on and on and on, right? So that's another thing that makes it worth recording and makes it worth keeping, right? So this is one idea for you. The other idea I have for you, and this is one that I gave my class to do. So many of them are keeping a COVID-19 hybrid journal. And I don't know if any of you have heard of hybrids before, but basically a hybrid is a lot like a scrapbook, but it's meant to keep information like about a specific event or a time, right? So basically it's pulling in information from places about a time or an event. So usually it has your own work in it, your own writings, but then it also pulls from newspapers, magazine articles, images. They could be your own. They could be stuff that's posted online or in news outlets, information on the virus, quotes, etc. So basically what a hybrid ends up becoming is about 50% your own work and about 50% coming from other people's work, right? So it's a mix between the two. And the 50%, it's negotiable how much goes into each one. Like it could be a little bit higher on your end or a little bit higher on the other. But the whole point is that every single thing that's in your hybrid journal is about your specific topic that you're looking at. So one of the things that I have my students doing is making a hybrid journal about their time experience with COVID-19. And I thought that this might be something that you might be interested in. And I pulled this image. This is from Anne Frank's diary, one of the pages of hers. And I love this because she was actually working with hybrid here. So we've got her handwriting here, but then we've got an image that she's pulled that looks like something like a picture that might have been something that she was involved with. But then we've also got like a newspaper article that she's pulled, pictures. These look like stickers that she's put into her journal as well too. And so she's working with this idea of having a hybrid. And I think that this could be a really cool project to do. The big thing that you want to think about when you're putting together a hybrid is imagine that somebody finds your book 30 years from now or 50 years from now, and they know that we've had some sort of a quarantine in the year 2020. But maybe they don't know anything else about it. Maybe they knew it was a really bad illness that went around, but they don't know anything else about it. So your work that's in your hybrid should also educate them on what was happening, but also tell your own personal story with it. So a lot of what like Anne Frank was doing, the thing that really pulls us into Anne Frank's story is her voice, her experience, what she specifically did every single day, right? So thinking about that could be creating this hybrid journal would be a great thing. If you need an example other than Anne Frank's, one of my favorite examples of a hybrid piece of artwork, I call them artwork because I think that they're so beautiful, but Claudia Rankin wrote Citizen, and this is a really pretty and beautiful method of hybrid text that she put together. And her topic is on race issues in modern America. But she has her own poetry, she has some of her own photography and things like that that she's put into it. But then she also is pulling from pop culture, newspaper articles, events that are happening in America. And it's a really beautiful way that she's put together a hybrid. So if you're looking for another example besides Anne Frank's, that's a great one. And let me go back to our chat to see if anybody has any questions. Oh, we've got 4 comments here. Let's see if anybody has any questions. Some of you are still writing about what you're doing with your stuff. Yeah. So this is just another idea of what you could do with it. And I'm curious, some of you said that you're already scrapbooking and doing things now. What kinds of things are you keeping? Are you keeping newspaper articles? Are you keeping photographs? Like, what exactly are you putting into your scrapbooks about this time period right now? Ooh, Miriam Monin put death rates. That's a great one. Okay. Rita, my own writing. Okay. I think it's interesting to look at a lot of the images that are popping up on social media, but not just social media, even in some of our news sources of the things that people are doing and the way that people look with these masks on and things like this. Sherry, I've never done scrapbooking, but keeping a list of what I'm doing with my days, that's perfect too. And Molly, a list of Ohio's actions since the start of the virus. Yep, and the changes dictated by the governor and others. That's fantastic. Yeah, these are all great ideas. Photos, oh, I love this. Yeah, photos of the empty grocery shelves. That's something that's so haunting. I mean, it's such a haunting image, and I think that's one that we're all gonna really remember, especially the toilet paper aisle, right? Like, or the paper towel aisle. The pictures that came out or that were being shown of these just empty places, for those of you, is something that really stands with this. Obituaries, yeah, lack of closure for folks. Christine, yeah, saving some pictures of Chicago with the empty streets. Those are haunting as well too. Yeah, keeping track of global country and state cases and deaths. I have a timeline of how things started in November and December until now. That's Jessica. That's fantastic. Scrapbook of empty streets. Yeah. The long lines at the grocery store. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. These are great. And these are the things that we'll remember long after, right? Images of my friends' driveway weddings. Yeah. Birthday parties. Some of you were saying like the drive-by birthday parades, the weddings that either got canceled or pushed aside, or they got married, but they were, people sewing their masks. This is great. Yeah. The playgrounds. Joan wrote about the playgrounds, photos of taped off areas and taped off playgrounds. Yeah, that's really strange to see that in parks and things like that. Krista. Nothing sold out that was surprising like Frank's hot sauce. I like that. Photos of the families visiting their elderly loved ones through windows. Yeah, it's really amazing to see some of those pictures. So all of these things could make a really good story of your experiences with this, right? And one of the things I have, this last slide that I have for you, and then we can do, if any of you have any questions or if you want to keep talking about the things that you're writing about, that's great too. But I just put together a page for you of where I pulled my information. So Instagram is really the place where a lot of people are doing a lot of journaling and a lot of journal work. So Elizabeth Gilbert, who I just adore, she is on Instagram and she has stuff that she posts regularly with it. Shelley Massey, hers is Shelley Massey Art Journal. She's a great one to follow as well too. And then if you want to follow me on Instagram or Facebook, I'm going to start tomorrow posting a quarantine journal prompt every day. Don't expect this too early. I will do my best to get it up by 11, but I'll do a prompt for however long that we are quarantined for. So if we have 15 more days in quarantine, I'll give you a prompt for 15 days, whatever it is. But for some people, the prompts are really, really helpful and they give you something to write about and something to go with. The other thing you might want to check out, I don't know if it's possible to get The Artist's Way electronically through the library, but this is a great book if you're interested in it. It's not just for writers, it's also for people who are interested in artwork, painting, anything that's artistic. I've had one of my really good friends in Columbus is a weaver, and she loves this book because she thinks that it speaks to her like with weaving. So I think it's something that if you're interested in any kind of art of any kind, this is a great book to check out. She has some really good practical ideas of ways to like sink into your art, into your creative energy. Also, there's Citizen by Claudia Rankin, which is a great book, and The Diary of Anne Frank as well. Do any of you have any questions or any comments you want to make in the chat?
Meredith, I'll just respond and say The Artist's Way is available through Cloud Library and Ohio Digital Library. And I'm checking Hoopla too. These are resources that, ebook resources that we have at the library. So you should be able to find it that way.
Yeah, some of you are asking about the PowerPoint. Yeah, sorry, I am so bad with technology. But yes, how about I'll send my PowerPoint to Elizabeth, and then she has all of your email addresses, and she can send out the PowerPoint to you that way. You can.
I will do that. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, there's this question. How do you get inspiration when writing? Because I can't find any to start writing. Oh my, yes, Brooklyn. This is a great question. I'm assuming you mean inspiration to write like something like a story or a novel or a poem or something like where you're working with that, or are you talking about journal writing? Because journal writing, you can kind of go with prompts, but one of the things that I have used to trick myself into writing, because there are definitely times when I do not want to write, even when I should be writing, I have a deadline and I need to write. One of the ways that I trick myself into it is with prompts. And so I work with one of my coworkers, and a really great writer that I really love is Katrina Kittle, who might be like the queen of making prompts for writing. She is awesome. And so she comes up with some really great ones. And I try to use those prompts. And then what will end up happening is I'll get interested in writing the prompt and end up going farther and going farther with it. And so it kind of tricks me into this writing process. But that is, I mean, yeah, the motivation to write is really, really hard to get there. What I found is if you can just get to the page or get to your computer and you can type one sentence, you're going to keep going a little bit after that. It's just getting there, right? Sherry asked if this will be available to watch later. Yes, they are recording this, and so that will be available for you as well too. Here's one. I like this. Today's conversation about various styles of journaling reminds me of Joan Didion's essay on keeping a notebook. Yes, that's wonderful. Some people might enjoy reading this for inspiration. Excellent. Oh, here's a great. Krista says, joining a writing group can help motivate you as well. And it's great to have accountability with others. Yeah. If you don't have a writing partner or a writing group, even asking one of your friends who you think will actually hold you to it, to check in with them about how much you're writing, or like if you say, okay, I'm going to write 5 pages in my novel this week, that maybe on Sunday you have someone, a good friend or a family member who you actually check in with to confirm that you really did those 5 pages, right? It's better if you have someone else who's a writer who's doing it, who can then really like hold you accountable to do it. Molly, this is providing an anchor during these uncertain times. Yeah, I think that's why so many people are interested in journaling, because it does give us a place to keep coming back to. As a habit almost, but it keeps us coming back and keep us coming back, keep us coming back. And it does help us feel grounded and safe in some ways too. Sherry, sometimes to get the words flowing, I just write a description of what I see around me or what is on my mind. Yeah, that's a great way to get started as well too.
Any other questions for Meredith?
Oh, here's Karen. I have found a great journaling prompts on Pinterest. Yes, Pinterest has some really good stuff, Karen. Hi, Karen. Did you have any questions, Elizabeth?
I did not, but I wanted to thank you so much, Meredith, for coming and sharing some just great ideas with me and everybody else who is here. I feel inspired, and I hope everyone who attended also feels inspired and is ready to start writing.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for having me. And I apologize for my lack of ability on Zoom, but
No, you did a great job, Meredith.
all right. Well, thank you so much for coming.
Okay, thanks everybody. Bye-bye.